And I'm going to hit record here in a second. All right. We're live on YouTube, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Okay. What do I do about that? I have to hit mute. I guess I just hit mute. Did I just hit mute?
YouTube.
Yep. Okay, that's it. Thanks, Thaddeus. All right.
You did it.
Got it.
Awesome.
All right, welcome to the Pool Party Podcast, everybody. I am your host, Tomorrow, and I am so excited. Today, we have Amandha Vollmer. She is literally the reason that I started in my investigation into Shivambu and urine therapy, and she's also a doctor of naturopathic medicine. She is the main alchemist at her company called Yum Naturals, and she wrote the book on DMSO and how to heal with DMSO. So Amandha, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited. I just told Amandha I had to go out and like run around the yard a little bit to get my nerves down because I'm literally starstruck. Like, this is so exciting. So just one quick little story. The whole reason that I started in with urine therapy is because I heard your podcast on the Sovereign Collective. And my husband sent it to me and he's like, Heidi, you got to listen to this. And I had heard from a friend of mine, Amandha, that he had been doing urine therapy for like 3 or 4 months. And I was like, that guy's gross. Like, I had so much cognitive dissonance. And I was like, I'm a biohacker. Like, we experiment on our body. And I'm like, that Nick is gross. Like, I can't believe he would ever do that. And I'm never going to do that. I actually said never. And then he said it again. And then Thaddeus sent me that podcast. And I was like, what? Oh my God, like there's something I need to know about this. And I'm like seriously curious, by nature. So, oh my God, I am so honored to have you here. And I know people on the YouTube are very excited to ask you some questions. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about your background and just what do we need to know about you right off the bat?
Well, thank you. And I guess my path is in obviously health, but also all sort of truth topics. And I've gone through different layers of, inner work essentially, or reflection, and really trying to transform myself as a rule, as the majority of my life. It wasn't all just about service work. It was about how to lift yourself or ascend through the physical form. And that's been really what's top priority to me, aside from all of the illusions of this place, and constantly testing and poking and prodding my reality. So being that, and also having a lot of fire in my belly, I just when I think I have to speak a certain way, I do, and sometimes move forward, but it always is for some reason. So I'm considered very brazen or bold, or I offend a lot of people because of it, and it's not the intention, of course, but being who I am and trying to be candid when I feel something or when I feel to express something. That's kind of part of who I am. You might have seen some of my rants or whatever, but I can be very stoic and calm and focused, and then I can be just really like feel that Shakti come through me, where I just need to be this Kali Ma, this tough mother energy, and strict and stuff. So it's like I'm tender and I'm strict, and so this nature of mine put me into interesting places throughout my life, in learning about all sorts of taboo things, meaning natural health, like Shivambu and other sorts of remedies like DMSO and that sort of thing. And I would, because I listen to that very faithfully, then I don't even respond as much to my reactions. Like, I know I'm going to have reactions to things, but I don't attach myself to them for very long if I do at all. So for example, that's disgusting. I'm not going to, I'm not going to drink my urine. That's really gross. That's, that first reaction that most people, I think all people have when they first hear of it, that's waste. Why would I do that? That's counterintuitive. These sorts of thoughts start to come. But if you realize that we've all been programmed to react to things that we don't agree with, or that we don't want to hear, or if they're not delivered the way that we demand they're delivered to us in order for us to accept them, then if you train yourself to not allow the ego tapes that get triggered to become who you are, they're just an aside, then you can really learn a lot and grow quite quickly. So I jumped into a lot of different subjects and tried to master many, like art and design and science, obviously, and chemistry and all those sorts of things. But also, the alchemy of making things, of creating things, of how do the herbs go together, and then how do you extract the herbs, and then how do you put it into oils, and then how do you transform the oils, or how do you move the oils, into this area of the body, or etc. So, I started to explore all that sort of material as well. And at this point, we've seen a lot of exposure to what's really happening. So we're in a mass awakening phase, whereas many of us go through like our own personal awakening journey. So I was already on that for a very long time. I did all the schooling, and it was so much schooling, it was absolutely ridiculous. I had to take time off and travel and unschool and unlearn a lot of the things that I thought I knew, or I thought, were true. And after that, I began to teach, and I felt confident enough to start to express myself with the videos and that sort of thing. Then COVID hit, and then all that got a little more cantankerous, I guess. And
it's a good word for that.
Yeah.
Perhaps the best word for that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So backing up, you first started talking about your ranting maybe. And the first time that I actually heard your rant was when you were talking about the snake in the water thing. And I was like, I honestly love her so much right now, because Thaddeus and I are like totally on board with that. We're just like, seriously, you guys, come on. And I don't want to get too much into that, but it was so refreshing, Amanda, to hear somebody just like speak the truth, right? Like, or speak truth. And who knows what truth is here and there. I mean, everybody has their own truth, their own perspectives, but it was so refreshing to hear a woman, right, like you, and just go off. I think that I was enamored by that. And just the bravery, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, you have to have permission to offend, right? And if you're not offending, I was just taking this business class, and she was like, if you're not offending someone, then you're not expanding. And I was like, oh yeah. And I'm in that self-discovery, phase as well. And I have been for many, many years. And I love that you just came right off the bat and said, this is about me finding myself, finding my voice, and coming in and bringing that Shakti energy like out. Right. And I don't know, it really brings confidence like to other women. And I learned that from you. So thank you for teaching that and being a really strong figure and a strong voice in all of this, because it's so important right now. So I guess let's jump into our first question. Like, how did you actually learn about Shivambu and urine therapy? Like, so I remember in the podcast, The Sovereign Collective, you talked about how your daughter had the bee sting. And you know how many times I repeat that story. I'm like, you guys have to, because I've given a few lectures on urine therapy myself at retreats. And I tell that story, and people just perk up to it. It's like, wait a minute, how come I didn't know this information? So I'm curious, like, where did you first learn about it? And then had you been, practicing before that bee sting incident? And then how did that kind of unravel?
Yeah, there were a few instances. The first, when I was in my teens, when I had scabies. I don't know if you heard that story, but
yeah.
I had the full-blown scabies mites, and they weren't clearing. And I began to research alternatives because I had tried the conventional route. And I was very concerned about continual use of their promethrin, basically, which has a lot of aluminum. And it even says I'm reading it and it's saying, don't have babies for at least a year after using this product. I said, that's probably not a good idea to put on my skin, you know.
My God.
And it didn't feel right either. I researched and found that the Indian practice, the original Indian Shimbambu practice, and I read it. And at that point, and a lot of people could relate, when you're very unwell and in major discomfort, no matter how wacky it sounds, you don't care. You're doing it. You know, you're trying it. And I did the method, and it healed the scabies on one treatment. And it was. I filed it. I filed it in the archives. And I didn't actually, it's funny, the brain, and it's funny at the different stages of our lives, you know, that I wouldn't have, at that time I was like, whoa, I should have been, wow. No, I was like, that's really cool. Now I'm going to go off and do my thing. Right. I mean, that was it. So,
oh my God.
It was just a foundational moment that struck me later when I found it again.
Right.
And it was ultimately because of my daughter having a UTI.
Okay.
And she was 4, I believe. I actually did a video about it called Rite of Passage, because I believe that a child's first UTI is actually an introduction of the bacteria of the colon into the front bits, into the urethra, in order to communicate the situation. And it isn't really a true infection per se, and we need to allow it to establish itself rather than wipe the whole thing out, which will lead to candida and other issues down the road. I allowed it, and it was a 2-week ordeal. And right at the end, I was extremely exhausted and frustrated because I had experimented with all of these remedies that were supposed to treat UTIs. And I kept stifling the case or stagnating the case, where I obviously didn't mean to repress or suppress anything. But I may have in that process, even with homeopathy, which at the time I didn't think you could suppress with homeopathy. But I proved myself wrong in this situation. And actually that sparked me researching suppression using homeopathy, which I found a lot of information about.
Wow.
But the urine was my last, I'm done. I'm tired. You only have so much in you. And I knew that I had to sleep, and I couldn't do skin on skin for a feverish child every night for another night. So I gave her own urine, which she drank without issue, and fever broke that afternoon because, yin rising is fever, and that can happen usually in the afternoon. Things might clear up in the day, and then you don't see it again till 3-4 in the afternoon when that rises.
Right.
It was done, and her discomfort, everything. And I went, oh my gosh, how did I remember me using this? And it was just this whole thing. And then I began to read, and I started with Martha Christie, even though I don't believe everything. I mean, she's obviously germ theory and that sort of stuff, but that's fine. I mean, you have to sift the materials. It's still very valuable information. And then I read the John Armstrong treatise, and then I started doing it. I mean, I'm a fire sign, so I pretty much get right to it.
Yeah, me too.
As fast as possible. So I'm like, okay, how do I drink this? I'm drinking it. Is this right? And you
were putting it in your smoothie or orange juice?
I started putting it in my smoothies because, well, actually I started with drops just to taste it and understand it. And I really was doing a lot topically for a while to get more comfortable with it. And I usually suggest to people, just get comfortable using it topically, hair, rub it into skin, whatnot. I actually did some aged urine and fresh. I did a little bit of that. I'd like to have fermented jars of things all over the house. So now I have more. And then I started to do the slow ingestion, and then I started putting it into my smoothie, and it was usually the 2 ounces morning.
Okay.
And I have had it straight or neat or whatnot, but I'm not at the stage where I can just gulp and gulp and gulp it. I'd like to get to that place for sure.
Okay.
But for now, I just still do every day, my 2 ounces in the morning, and I do it in a little bit of orange juice. It's a lot less than it used to be.
Okay.
And I wash with it. Every time I'm going to shower, I do my hair, and every time.
Yeah.
If I have bug bites, or if I have to go out to the garden, I will take a little of the aged urine and rub it, and the bugs don't.
The bugs,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So were you ingesting the aged urine, do you say?
I hadn't at the beginning.
Okay.
No, I
was topical.
aging it to rub onto my skin.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Stem cells. Yeah, I was.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Definitely. Let me just look over quick and see if we have a question on the YouTube chat. People are taking notes, and they're very excited that you're here. So yay. All right. So let's just field one question right off the bat, Amanda. So we talked a little bit about your morning collection. So I think people are really interested in is like, what's your thought on, is it all sterile? Is it just the midstream? Because a lot of the content, that we read in the books is, oh, you should only, like, there's a lot of rules around. It's interesting. There's a lot of rules that I read around, like some of the collection. And then there's other people that are like, it's all sterile. It's all amazing. You can drink every drop. And so it's like one extreme to the other. So what's your perspective on that? Is it just the midstream that's sterile, or is it all of it? And then what's your protocol with the midstream?
Well, I think that you could do either and be fine. Okay. I really do. A lot of it is theoretical. A lot of the methods, and right, there's some logic or theoretical knowledge as to why. So I'd say if there's a rational reason and it seems to make sense, then it's something to consider. And at some point in time, it would be good to do some functional science and figure out if it's true or not. And so really it comes down to your own experimentation and what you find if you don't collect midstream and you take the whole entire urine, which I have advised for certain people anyway, to not even really much bother with that, because what the concept is, when you are not micturating, which is the anatomy word or the science word for urinating, is micturating. Oh. So when you're beforehand, you have your urethra, right, which is a mucosal tissue, and it's got life to it. It's not sterile, like it itself is not sterile. And the idea is that when the first leg of the urine is washing over, some of the bacterial colonies may dislodge from that process and might be found in the first few dribbles, essentially. Right. Is it bad for you? I don't think so. I mean, so there's bacteria in it. Yeah. It's yours. We know that these things don't cause disease, so there should not be a problem. But some people are squeamish about it as well. There's a mind over matter portion to it. And also nurses or people who have medically trained, when we are supposed to instruct someone to collect their urine for us to test it, we tell them about clean catch technique. You wipe, you clean your vulva, or you clean your urethra properly first, then you let the stream pass to wash, because urine is cleansing. So you're literally using that first bit of urine as the cleanser, right?
Isn't that
discard, yeah. Right? Collect. Now you're really going to be looking for a true capture of what your urine in your bladder looks like, right? And then the end part of it is said to contain more sediment. And then again, it's fine if you're not concerned about particulates or sediment and that sort of thing, then don't worry about it. But if you're aging it, it might be annoying because you get a lot more sediment buildup in your aged urine, right?
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, there's theoretical understanding as to why it is said to do it. But you're right. I've read different books on it, and some are very strict rules. Even the Indian style can be very rigid or very specific. And then also people who have thrown caution to the wind, they don't care, and there's no real repercussion of it.
Yeah.
So again, we're just working on theoretical understanding and previous knowledge of how we collect urine samples, basically.
Right. Okay. I just thought of something. Have you seen the movie, that documentary on Gaia, the Urine Aid?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. Okay. It's something.
Urine Aid?
It's called Urine and then dash Aid, like Urine Aid. Yeah.
Oh,
like
I think,
Kool-Aid.
okay. That's familiar to me, but there was also a song that someone wrote about urine therapy.
Oh, yeah. I saw it.
Ago.
There's a Brother Sage. I'm not sure if some conjecture around him maybe with that, but in that movie, there's like this scene where the people in India are running down this alley and there's a bunch of cows and they're trying to collect the cow urine. It is absolutely hilarious. It's not meant to be hilarious, but the guy has like the bucket. He's got like the stainless steel bucket and he's running down the alley. And then he gets to the cow and she starts urinating, and then he gets there and she's done and he's like, oh. And then another cow down the other side starts urinating. He turns around, he runs back over to that cow, and then he's like, oh, and he missed it. He keeps missing the cows. But they're pressing the cow urine into like formed pills and then using that as medicine in India. That was kind of the scene. But I was like, why would you put that scene in there? Like, maybe it was meant to be funny. I don't know. Anyway, but cow urine, right? So that's something that I've read about in the past as well. And do you have any conjecture on the cow urine, or like, do you know anything about that?
Well, all of these, I mean, urine is going to be similar.
Okay.
Enough in different animals, which is mainly water, and then the solutes that you're looking for. So whatever growth factors and particulates of vitamins or hormones or minerals, that sort of thing. And it could be that whatever's in cow, I haven't looked at cow urine or studied the differences between cow and human urine, but I'm sure it's interesting.
Yeah.
And that they're usually after the urea, and like there's a handful of urokinase that they're after, in the urine.
Right.
And it's probably more cheaper and easier to get it from the cow to put it in the pill than going to, receptacles and collecting urine. Right. As they do, I found out there's urinals that will take usually the men's urine from and process it into drugs.
The urokinase, is that in Michigan? Isn't there a bunch of urinals?
And it was in the States for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Okay, so that's what the cosmetic industry is after, right? The urea. And that's okay. So they're putting that in cosmetics and they're collecting that from men? Like, how does that work? Do you know about that? This is off subject, but I kind of like to do it on that.
Urea is urea. I mean,
okay. Oh, okay.
You're still you're gonna get different hormones too. Right. I mean, luteinizing hormone LH and FSH, which is the follicular stimulating hormone, that usually comes from postmenopausal nuns. And I remember learning that in naturopathic college. The postmenopausal nuns give their pee for these fertility based essentially drugs.
Oh my God. Yeah. So why would they be postmenopausal? I don't understand
because
that.
Because postmenopausal urine is different than a menopausal woman, because there's more LH and FSH in because you're not really, I think it's probably because you're down regulating its physical use. But I haven't looked at the pathway to say 100%, but if there's more in the urine, so it's more valuable.
So crazy. I know. I was talking, this is actually a funny story. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's definitely postmenopausal, and she, we had some conjecture about urine therapy, and I was like, if you're on pharmaceuticals, like it's probably not a good idea. Like they don't advise if you are taking any to, ingest your own urine. I don't know. I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. But she looked at me and she goes, "Can I have some yours?" And I was like, "Oh my God." I mean, maybe I could sell it. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because if you have fertility issues, which I know we're going to talk a little bit about, then one of the practices to actually rebalance the hormones is that both parties would switch their urine, and the male would drink the female, female would drink the male, to overcome whatever underlying issues that might be going on, contributing to their inability to conceive. Because really, this is just filtered blood.
Yeah.
And it's more, I think that you want to talk about metaphysical, and that's a very metaphysical explanation of an exchange and an agreement with your partner to conceive together and to communicate each other's bodies to one another, because you're trying to make a baby, which requires two parties coming together. And by this switching process, it's this information, because, we're getting the waters of knowledge from information coming out and then coming right back in. And now imagine that information is being given to another to assist their body in communicating other signals, pheromone signals, and so forth. And that seems like a really interesting way to deal with an imbalance. Maybe there's insights that would even come from that. Maybe there'd be a dream state that will come from that. I mean,
right.
So I don't think, and people who are very sick and they can't make urine, they're going to need urine from another.
Right.
So you have that aspect. And then there's even, I'm going to read to you in a bit, some really kind gentleman sent me ancient Chinese medicine Shivabu protocols and how it works in Chinese medicine. And there's some sharing going on, and there's some drink the little boy's urine, and then there's some like drink the little girl's urine and stuff going on. So,
oh my God.
They were way more out there with the sharing.
Yeah. I mean, where I live, like you don't even talk about it. So, I mean, that's really going down the bunny hole. That's really cool. I can't wait for that.
Heidi, run down to the Thompson's house. I need some urine. Run along.
Okay. Oh my God, that'll be $1,000.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, that would be just that would just be your obligation, your community obligation.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is hilarious. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. So, Amanda, I know we just kind of like jumped into the urine therapy. Could you just give a little bit of like, okay, this is not waste product. This is blood plasma, ultrafiltrate, activated, ultra distilled, blah, blah, blah. Could you give that little speech just for like a couple minutes so people can kind of understand?
It's the same problem of, it's waste.
Yeah.
That's right. What we think. And I like to say it, yes, you can say it's filtered blood, but also it's excess as well. It's overflow, excess. The body can only work with so much material, obviously, at any given time. And the homeostasis of the body has to be regulated constantly. If there's too much water in the system, if there's too much of any given solute or hormone in the system, then it's not being used, then there'll be a determination whether it's to be recycled or if it's to be removed, right? And the body takes the blood to the kidneys, going through this purification step. And the real wastes, the actual garbage wastes, are sent to the liver, because the liver has to do the work of denaturing the questionable items of substances. Now, some will come through into the urine, but it's very small parts per million. People often ask me, oh, I'm detoxing metals, or I'm taking this drug or whatever. Should I do the Urine or urine therapy? And again, you have those different camps where people say, absolutely not. You have to be careful. You're going to change your levels of your drug in your body, and so on. Or there's another camp that says, doesn't matter. Your body will adjust to what you take anyway, and will up or down regulate accordingly. So you don't have to worry about it. So I think it just depends on where you land and where your comfort level is, in which you decide. I've had a lot of cases of women trying to get off their thyroid hormone pills, use urine as part of their medical dose, downgrading their amount of whatever they're taking slowly, and using the urine as a substitution for that. And I have seen women overdose on their medication slightly by taking the urine in and not decreasing the dose, which means, right, you can have a synergistic or an expanding, effect of what you are trying to be, remove from the body. And if your liver is overwhelmed and your kidneys are leaky, or you're spilling protein, or you have other issues of the kidneys, then there could be unwanted aspects. But still, we're talking pretty small levels of parts per million. And that's why in those cases, they may want to let it settle and let the sediment and other heavier, like if it's metals or things, then let that set down. And if it's lighter, like maybe there's some aluminum in the solution, then you could do a quick little filter, like a coffee filter sort of thing, if you were concerned.
Okay.
But ultimately, you're still giving yourself more so a microdose, a small amount of it coming back through the gastrointestinal tract. And that can upregulate the detox mechanism by ingesting the very waste that you're trying to get rid of. Some people say it's counterintuitive. Some people say, well, that's more synergistic and energy medicine to do that, and will upregulate the removal process and assist, which I have seen. I do see more urine produced when drinking the urine, meaning it's a diuretic. It upregulates urine output, right? And it can also make people feel nauseous or not quite awesome for a little bit. Well, it's usually mixed. And I've had this where you feel not good, but also better at the same time. Like I have a newer energy or a fresher energy that I like, but right now I'm nauseous. Right now, I have to lay down. I feel tired for a minute, but then you're better for it after, right? But it can put you into a detox kind of situation. That's my point. So I would say it's up to you. It's very individual. It's very personal, individual when it comes to how you're detoxing and how you take it in, but not to worry so much about it being wasteful or going to hurt you or anything like that. It's really just plasma, stem cells, and hormones, and small amounts of micronutrients and minerals and that sort of stuff. And this is structured water. You've structured the water yourself through your body, and it's made for you. It's really ultimately designed for you. Or in the case of you're trying to share your information with another, they're going to get that information, aren't they?
Right. So I like when you talk about the distilled part of it or the structured part, it makes me think of Andrew Norton Weber. Have you had any conversations with him at all?
No, I would love to. I watched, actually, I think he was the very, very first video I really watched.
Yeah. Same.
Oh, my internet's being a little unstable. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're good. I'll close down some things. What we're saying, sorry.
We were just talking about Andrew Norton Weber.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when he was the one that helped me a lot with the distilled, understanding that it's really distilled.
Yeah.
He explains that quite well.
Right.
And I do suggest people watch him speak about it and understand that he's talking about water and the importance of water, really. Urine contents aside.
Right.
Speaking of the importance of the structured water, and which is basically the way water will shape itself depending on its charge. You can have different charges of water, and that will obviously give a voltage, and we are voltage. And so when the water is structured, it's the most electrically sound, and it will produce the most energy for you, and vitality for you. And that's how the body really runs. The body is a battery that runs on voltage based on structured water and the different variations of water that it produces, positive, negative, just like how a battery would alternate charges to keep things moving, right?
Right. So do you drink distilled water?
I drink RO water because I have the system and I've tested it, and it's really tiny parts per million. It's like 3, and it's tastes good to me, feels good to me, and I collect it and actually transfer it into a cooler because I do like to have options to have cold water sometimes.
Oh, nice.
And then I do have a spring that I really like that's very good water. A very pure, not too mineral rich, not too heavy.
Yeah.
And very quenching. You feel very nourished by it.
Nice. Yeah, that's so important. I had a friend who was distilling and then putting it in a Berkey, and then she put it in the Wu Wei. So she was doing this like 3-part water system, and I would go over to sauna with her in the morning, and my body was literally magnetized to that water. I was like, I cannot get enough of that water. I would purposefully not drink water from my house and fill my bottle up at her house. I was like, I need some more of that. So yeah, Andrew Norton Weber has some like really good content around. He goes to the grocery store in one of his videos, and he pulls out like every single bottle and tests it parts per million for the inorganic solids, which was really eye-opening to me. That's what Amanda was talking about a little bit there, you guys. So I know we're kind of jumping all around, but this is really interesting. I think people really are interested in water. And I like what Andrew talks about too. Like if you're not ready for urine therapy, like go to the fruit juices, go to the distilled waters. Like they'll have the same detoxifying effect on the body, without, having to get over your own cognitive dissonance of the urine.
Yeah,
right.
That's a good point. I like that he does that. He says you don't have to do it to get the understanding of at least the water portion of the healing,
Right.
And start there. And when you start to feel better, then maybe, you can test around with it topically or taste it and realize it's just very salty. It's like seawater, sort of ocean water.
Yeah.
Taste.
It is. And it's so magical. I really feel that there's so many metaphysical properties on tasting your own water and how it connects to your self-love and how you see yourself. It's like, how Vander Kroon talks about the holographic you, right? And it's like, I don't know, there's so many aha moments I get from all these books. So I read actually The Water of Life first, and then I read Vander Kroon, his Golden Fountain, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. And then I read, I think a couple ebooks or Kindle books. Brother Sage was one. And then I got the Martha Christie book, and I got the Martha Christie book for $20. My girlfriend went to get it the next day. It was $80 on Amazon. Oh. I was like, what happened?
Was it the same on your computer with the same browser, or was it she went and looked? I'm just curious.
It was her browser at her house.
Like, she looked? Okay.
Yeah. She was like, wait,
go
Good.
They have a thing. There's a thing. If someone starts buying something, I think their algorithm goes, oh, there might be a run, hasn't done anything, hasn't sold for ages. And then you have a first price to catch someone into buying it, which might mean more people want it. So then the second buyer is up. I think there's a thing with that. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, I do want to get into a little bit more of the infertility, but people are asking online too about applying it on your skin. Somebody on YouTube Live is asking, do you wash it off your skin after applying? And then another question is, do you have to consume it within 15 minutes? People are wondering.
For the skin, you can wash it off or not, either or. I will do a prep and then shower. I do a routine where I know I'm going to put it on because I'm going to shower, and I want to soak my hair in it and that sort of stuff. And so the way I do it is I rinse it off, but you don't have to. Now, I did a method where I was really doing the urine rubbing technique, where you have the urine and you just, put 2 fingers in. It's almost dry. I mean, it's not dripping. And then you find the area where you have an issue and you rub it until it is dry. Right. And you do the whole body, or you do an area, say there's an area you have tumors or something, then you continue to do this method. And that's not intended to really be washed off. It's intended to be absorbed. Right. But when I did it, I actually got a little bit dismayed because I began to smell very ammonia-like after a while. It was as if the fat cells under my skin was grabbing it and holding it and becoming very aromatic.
Oh my God.
And I didn't like that. I don't really need to smell like a subway urinal.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Not into that sort of smell,
and
but
that's the aged urine though, right? You're talking about.
Well, I wasn't
evolved.
at the beginning. At the beginning, I wasn't. It was just,
really?
I was just rubbing it a lot in the skin. I wouldn't have the shower on. So I'd be doing the rubbing and get it all into my skin. Yeah. And I would shower off and use soap. And then the next day, do the same, next day, and after a few weeks, it's like, what the heck is that? Now, mind you, I have the nose of a hound dog since I gave birth.
Sure.
You get this weird sense of smell. Right. And so maybe I was just really hyper aware of it. Yeah, right. And not anybody else would even much notice that I smell like an elder's home or something. I was so concerned. I'm like, oh no. But it smelled like a hospital, But,
yeah, right.
I started to mix with different essential oils and see what worked with my skin. But then when I started working with DMSO, I find the DMSO helps it go in and it doesn't leave residue and you don't smell like a urinal.
Okay. So I have a question. Okay. I have a question with the DMSO since we're on that topic. If I have some on my face or whatever, and then I use your facelift product with the DMSO, is that going to put anything further into my bloodstream with the DMSO that's in my urine? That's maybe like some minute particles of heavy metals or anything that's not, or that's not even a deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's really so minute.
It really is negligible unless you're doing a heavy detox and you're testing and right? I mean, for me, I'd be prudent. I mean, at that, I would say, what's my intuition say? It says you are doing this right now. Okay. So this is, you're not going to you might have a little hair of the dog to get the communication continually going. Okay. But maybe not use it with DMSO right now, just to be prudent. That's all.
Okay. Because we do the DMSO with the magnesium on our dantian before bed. So I keep doing that. And the more I do that, Amanda, I have like during my cycle, I've noticed, like, because I'm 48, I think we're the same age, right? Are you?
Yeah, I'll be 48 in August.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're Leo. You're by your sign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm Saggy. So I'll be actually, well, I don't know if I'll be 48 or 49 in December. I always lose track.
Well, I'm born
I don't pay
1974.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Okay. So I'll be 48. What was I saying? Oh, so with my monthly cycle, I've noticed that when I do the DMSO with the magnesium on my dantian, I have less issues with, like, sometimes I just get like panicky at night right before my period. I'll get an elevated heart rate and I'll just be like, what is happening to my body? Like, I don't even know. Like, it feels like it's kind of on fire on the inside a little bit and tingly. And then my heart rate, and then I start to like go, oh, what's happening? And I'm like, oh my God, it's my hormones for sure. And I've noticed that since I keep doing that before bed, that is less and less and less. And this month, it wasn't even a thing. So that's really something that I've experienced with the DMSO and the magnesium. Do you have any experience with that at all?
Yeah. And also keep in mind, DMSO is a massive painkiller, right? And right at PMSing time, when the engorged uterus is starting to soften its sides and contract a little and spasm a little to slough off the tissue in the blood to release, that creates molecules of pain, right?
Right.
And it can be subtle. It doesn't have to be full on cramps. It's just subtle on fire inside feeling, or just that energy is racing because pain molecules can increase your heart rate and all that. So it's probably just a reaction to a subtle pain signal from your menses process.
Okay.
And when you use the DMSO magnesium, you're upregulating the liver and you're using an analgesic at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Because both magnesium and DMSO will increase the liver, which the liver governs the uterus and controls the hormones, and then detoxes the wastes that a lot of waste will also accumulate in the menses to be removed. Right. So what you're doing is you're really allowing for a more smooth cycle that doesn't have overflow wastes that might get recycled back and make you feel strange. And as well, the nerves or the nervous system will be a bit more toned.
That's exactly what I've experienced.
I find that's very common. And I know a lot of individuals who've had all kinds of different pain syndromes just remark at the DMSO aspect. And then if you use like poultices at all, you can use urine poultices too for discomfort and pain. And you can mix things like that where you add, say, 50 to 70% DMSO on, say, the abdomen. And then you do a urine compress over top. And a lot of that is going to go into the organ of choice where you're presenting it locally. And the DMSO will accelerate that utilization, obviously. And of course, you'll remedy it quicker.
Yeah.
You'll upregulate it. Yeah.
Oh, it's so fascinating. Okay. So with the urine at that point, is that fresh or that's evolved?
Well, usually if you're going to do a poultice, I mean, what I found is most people don't plan them unless they have an ongoing issue. So for acute, right? Like, then it's usually fresh, but you could go into your stores. You could go into your basement where you have 10 or 20 different age urine bottles because you can't waste any of it because it's cold. Right? So you can't throw it down the toilet. And then you can dip one of your rags in that one, or actually you should filter it first. Yeah.
Right. Oh my gosh. That's so interesting. That's like our upstairs bathroom. That's a whole laboratory up there. So it smells pretty good.
I have a very nice dark vintage right now.
You do?
Nice. I'm quite impressed with the coloration of it. It's a very a smoky.
Is it red?
variety.
Yeah. How long is it?
It's just that one, let me think now, 4 months.
Okay.
I think it's 4 months, that particular one. And I use that one. It's right by my sink, and I have a little lid. And sometimes you can lid them. But this actually is a lid that can breathe.
Okay.
And I'll just dip my finger in if I have a blemish or I want some spot treatment, that sort of thing.
I do the same exact thing. Yep. I hide mine behind this cute little waterfall I have in our bathroom. And then I always put like a little essential oil on the cheesecloth just so it doesn't get too crazy in there. But yeah, I like the experiments.
It can get crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Thank God for essential oils.
I know, right? My oldest one is from November of 2021. So I have one from that. That's when I heard you start talking about that. So we're on the podcast.
That's your OG urine.
I know, right? Yeah. That's so cool.
I have a really, really old urine that I just keep adding water to. Yeah. But it was like 2 or 3 years old. And then I left it too long and it totally dehydrated.
Oh, really?
Completely. It just looked like crusts in the bottom, salt. Yeah.
Right. So that's so fascinating. So like you can actually grow a mushroom from that stuff, right? That's what Eric Casano and I talked about that in our podcast. That's pretty wild. And people are like taking the mushroom and like microdosing that. I don't know. I mean, we're getting out there, but that's what, right? And they're like getting a little bit of a psychoactive, I don't know, microdose, I guess, off of it. So that's a whole different, that's a whole different ball game.
That's like some sort of holographic patterning of your own waters going into other things, and woo.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. So what other metaphysical things have you noticed? Because like in all the literature, so like it seems like we both kind of had the same reaction to the onset of urine therapy coming into our world. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to deep dive and read absolutely everything I possibly can. So I've read almost every piece of literature there is to read, and every single one of them talks about this happiness factor, this something inside that changes into this peaceful, like metaphysical, and like, what do you even call it? Like, how have you had that happen? And have you read about that yourself? Like something that I've just noticed. I think it was the Golden Fountain that I first learned about it when he started talking about the psychological effects of urine therapy. Mm-hmm. And then like this weird correlation between people like dying peacefully in their sleep. Is that something, do you remember anything about that? Mm-mm. Okay, because I think that Prime Minister of India, there was some conjecture in that, and then some other kind of weird esoteric book I read on Kindle, they talked about that. And I was like, what is this thing about like inner peace, happiness, and then dying peacefully in your sleep if you ingest?
Well, if you think about it, of what it is, you have structured water, like we were talking about. You have the stem cells of repair. You're ingesting it into the gut, so you're healing the gut, and the gut is mood and mind, right? And you're balancing your hormones. I mean, most people who are depressed and anxious and these sorts of things they get stuck into, it's because the hormones are in an imbalanced state and you don't feel right. And you begin to ingest these waters and you make those corrections. It's just a logical step to assume that you would start to feel better mentally and emotionally from that. Mm-hmm. And that would impact maybe the way you handle stress, or maybe, again, it's as individual as you. Some people, maybe they didn't have a lot of trauma, and so they're just in a blissful, happy state. Or maybe what it does is it makes you go into your healing of a trauma or of a situation, or brings you to the next leg of your journey of your healing. And I find that a lot with healing substances, that even if it's not the correct per se healing substance, it still is, meaning you have taken a free will action to make a correction and connect with nature and start to change mineral and pHs and these sorts of things. And that can make you a little more in tune, just that alone. So drinking your own urine make you more in tune, right? Having some connection, even grounding, all of these things where you're connecting, it's really what you're connecting to is you. And when you can achieve something of yourself, or you figure some quandary for yourself out, I think that will produce some sort of happiness, or at least a lightness of being. And I mean, is that happening? Like, I would like that to be experimented back before all this nonsense of fake pandemics and stuff. We're not testing in normal time. It's nothing normal anymore. And, so you could be drinking your pee and you're still broke or something, right? But you could save money on food. So there's a bonus.
Totally. There's the part of the health freedom, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I do want to get back to the thing that you wanted to read and share with us. And I know we're coming up on an hour in a couple minutes. And I want to definitely make sure that we get that included in this podcast, Amanda.
Yeah. Well, it's really cool stuff. I actually pull it up here. So what had happened is a gentleman named Peter Torcell. He's he's head of acupuncture academic in Sweden and Stockholm of Chinese medicine. So he's the head of that acupuncture department. Okay. And he wrote a book called The Shaping of Our Bodies. And what he wanted to share was his knowledge of this materia medica of 1596. So we're talking the year 1596 by Li Shizhen. It's called the Benkao Gangmu is the name of the materia medica.
Okay.
And they talk about urine at length in this book, in this materia medica. Now, what's interesting is that it talks about urine as actually cold. So if you understand Chinese medicine, everything's either spicy and warm or cool and cold. And so you have different flavors like salty, sweet, sour, these sorts of tastes. And all of the tastes and temperatures are what you give when you're trying to balance something in the body. So for example, if you are cold and dry, you would give hot and moist to try to balance it out. And so you're looking for, when you're identifying illness, you're looking for these things as a Chinese practitioner.
Okay.
And they are stating that human urine, it's called Ben Kao Gangmu. It is cold and salty. So those are its temperature and flavor principles. And there's no poison in it. So they say there's no poison at all, which is interesting because we just said maybe something's coming out or whatever, but it's not poisonous to us.
Okay.
They say that it's good for treating chronic cough. So if you have a loss of voice, you can use it to gargle with to get your voice back. So singers, people who have, or even like us, we talk a lot and could lose our voice. Dissolving hard masses, dispelling abdominal distension were also named in it for ingestion. Okay. Brightening the eyes, which we know that you can wash the eyes with it, and that it will take the yellow out the sclera. Improves the voice, moistens the muscles and skin, facilitates the function of the large intestine, repels the obstinate and ushers in the new. That sounds very metaphysical to me. While treating a blockage. So a blockage physically or a blockage metaphysically. Treats cough and lung flaccidity. So a weakened, flaccid, non-productive cough, for example. And you could nebulize the urine in that case, right? Or you could boil the urine and inhale the urine.
Right. Okay.
Where you do that with steam, put a towel over your head, you could do it with the urine. It treats tetanus. I mean, the only time you're ever going to really get that is if you're on a farm and you dig down deep and you find a rusty nail in a bunch of pig manure. Then you're going to find the tetanus possible the toxoid, because it's not the bacteria that causes any issues, the toxoid itself. And that has to get in really, really, really deep into your skin, and you can't bleed, because the second you bleed, it's running out. And so that's your tetanus moment. But if you ever have that weird moment, that rare weird moment, then you can pee on it.
Yeah. Imagine that.
There you go. Yeah. Then there's something they call ghost stroke, which I think is just a very silent, stroke, a small stroke or micro stroke.
Oh, okay.
Not overt.
So what would you do for that then with the ghost stroke, do they say?
They're saying to take the urine a long time after it's excreted. So they're suggesting for that bulk that I just said to use the aged.
Oh, okay.
And they say, because the urine is cool or cold, if you feel cold, if you feel chilled, you are best to add the urine into a warm soup.
Oh.
So add it to a hot soup, and it will obviously cool it off a little bit, but that's the warming aspect to balance the cold nature.
Okay.
It quenches thirst in consumptive disease with general debility. So consumption is basically like TB. Moistens heart and lung, dispels stiffness. So it's good for all sorts of rheumatic issues and osteo issues. Treats mania, treats manic states, but also with fever. So if anyone has like a sepsis or a blood disorder, anything feverish and mania. And it says it dispenses blood stasis due to physical damage, so an injury. Stops hematemesis and epistaxis, and that's basically bleeding or vomiting blood. Treats chapped skin, which I know because I don't have chapped skin ever.
Yeah.
It treats a childbirthing issue called dystocia. Basically, it's a shoulder dystocia. The shoulder of the child cannot get through the canal. There's a stuck moment.
Okay.
I don't know if you're just splashing urine at that point. Or not sure, like, is that preventative? Or you got to do a thing.
Right.
In old text, but it says it can help expel retained placenta. And for treating a bite of snake or dog. I mean, we know that it's famous for all kinds of bites.
Jellyfish is the
anything.
Probably, right.
Exactly. Anybody biting you?
Yeah.
You pee on it. Now it says it moistens yin and brings down fire. So that would mean very good for fevers. So very good treatment.
Okay.
I would use that as a poultice or a liniment.
Okay.
If you really not supposed to bring down a fever, really.
Yeah.
You're just supposed to manage the situation.
Exactly.
But if you're in discomfort and you want to cool the skin itself, then putting fresh urine in a compress would be very relieving.
Okay.
And then it says it kills worms, neutralizes toxins, treats malaria and heart stroke, recommending it for headache. And they say it's better if cooked with Kongbai and danduchi. I don't know what those particular foods are, but they talk a lot about food combinations with the urine, and they have different sorts of behaviors on the body.
Well, it's not unlike the Tantra, where Shiva gives all the herbal combinations with the ginkgo and, whatever with urine. Right? Oh, did we lose you? Oh, no. Amanda, can you hear me? Oh, I think the audio is coming back. There you are.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. We just phased out there for a second.
Okay.
It's my internet that's acting up. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I was just commenting about the Dharma Tantra that, did I get that right? Where they combine the ginkgo and all sorts of different combinations of herbs. Yeah.
Let me just give me 2 seconds to check what happened.
Okay,
here.
no problem. Okay, everybody. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it just reset. It just sometimes I'm out in the forest, so sometimes the internet decides to reset itself, and
maybe the trees had something to say.
Maybe. But I will. It switched me off. That's what happened. It kicked me off. So I'm on the other. So it talks on about all these sorts of different ways, but talks about how to just best from a boy, a woman should drink a cup of human urine after giving birth. And they can, I don't know why the young boy, but they say it's best from a young boy. Maybe because of the way the hormones are.
Oh, sure.
And some mothers may drink urine for 7 days to heal the blood stasis after giving birth. Which that can occur, and fever, obviously, that sort of thing. But you don't overdose on it because it can actually bring cold to the uterus and can cause leukorrhea. So there are cautions to say there's different times of life to use it or not use it, or be aware of the cooling properties. And if you think about it, if you've had damage to an organ, you do want it to heal, but you also want it to have heat because the healing needs the warmth. So, you would want to either not take it much at that point or do it warmed, have it warmed. Maybe that's why you're really meant to drink it fresh while it's still got body heat into it.
Oh yeah, maybe. Right. It's always nicer pouring it on your scalp when it's fresh too. I've noticed, like, it's just like, oh, it feels so good. Okay. Are you continuing with the Chinese medicine?
There's I'm sort of skimming. I can give this
that'd be great
to you so you can find it. Maybe I'll do a blog article with it in there.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
So it just says that that you can use it to quell cowardice in a man or a woman.
What?
You can, so you can administer a girl's urine to a man and a boy's urine to a woman twice a day. And they say specifically in this, don't use the initial part of the stream, only the midstream for this.
Okay.
It says after drinking the urine, eat dry cooked pie. Okay. And after a month of such treatment, the syndrome will be gone. So curing cowardice.
That's awesome.
We're going to have to hold some people down.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. We'll just find all the mask wearers, and this is the technique.
I love how rebellious you are.
Man.
It's so good.
What does it say? The blood stasis attacking the heart. To address physical damage, including fractures, you blend it with wine, and it works to repulse the old and usher in the new. It seems to be a theme, doesn't it? But, get rid of old and bring in new, get rid of blockage, allow for flow, this sort of thing. And then depending on if they're strong or weak, it doesn't matter. The blood stasis is a problem, so you use the urine for it regardless.
Okay.
And they go on about different stings and things like that, and how to deal with poisoning, and how heat will be dispelled from poisoning, expelling fetus material, as well. They talk about the drinking the husband's urine to dispel a fetus that's, miscarried, or they haven't expelled it yet. So say they know they're miscarrying or something, they drink the husband's urine to clean it out. And then that goes well with ginger, apparently. So
that's in that Dharma Tantra thing too.
Yeah, they talk about it in this one too, to mix it with Kong Bai. I don't know what Kong Bai is, and fresh ginger and drink it. And that's for facilitating childbirth. I guess it makes sense. It would warm. Ginger's a warming herb, so you're mixing a warm herb with a cool substance,
right?
Yeah. And it just sort of talks like this. So these are the implications. Here's sort of the admixtures you can use with urine.
Wow.
And that's what he sent me. So it's quite.
And that was $15.96. Wow, you guys, that is so cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's pretty awesome. I love the cowardice piece particularly. But
yeah, fascinating.
It's entertaining. We have some questions over on the YouTube live, and a lot of people are asking about hair. So you have mentioned before your mother-in-law with the gray hair, where people are curious, like where are you at with that? Where are you at with your own? I know my husband and we do a lot of our own hair therapies, and he's experimenting a lot with some of that stuff too, with regrowth. So what do you have to share about the update with the mother-in-law?
Well, she's still good. I think it's also dependent on the type of being as well. I think there's more to it. Yeah. Otherwise, everyone would get rid of their gray hair and drinking it. And it doesn't seem to, I don't really know. I always have had changing patterns to my hair. I have a hard time noticing trends with it as a result.
Okay.
So that's like right now I'm going through a hydration cycle. Like I do different things on my body at different times. Sometimes I'll do a bigger skin routine sort of focus. And now I'm doing a hair routine focus where I'm trying to lock in lots of moisture. I'm using lots of shea butter. And because I have really, really curly, thick, wild hair that just sometimes has a mind of its own. And so right now I'm just doing like a moisture treatment essentially on it. And of course every time I will rinse the hair in fresh urine before I shower. Pretty much every time I shower, I will do it. And I'm ingesting it, but I'm not really noticing per se any where, it's all gone, or I'm not getting that personally. And which I'm kind of ticked off about it.
I kind of sensed that a little bit.
Yeah, damn it.
Yeah, right.
Some do and some don't.
Right.
My partner, who also ingests his urine every day, there's just like no change. I mean, it's been I can't remember how long I've gotten him into it. I think it's been at least a year now. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe a little less. But he just has one little cute gray patch, and that's his gray patch, and that's it. And that's okay. I mean, I don't need it to go away. I kind of like it. So
right.
It's weird, but it's going to bring back luster. So it will help close the, how hair cuticle has and it will help to smooth and shine down the cuticle itself.
Okay.
I would say it's a great idea to mix and combo urine with other substances. It would be an interesting experiment to put urine in the hair and then moisture, like add a barrier onto the hair and allow the urine to really soak into the hair. That could be an experiment someone could do to see how it changed their graying.
Yeah.
And it's more than likely less about topical application, even though I think there's an aspect. I think it's a combination. Yeah. The internal aspect is going to depend on probably how well your body is processing certain vitamins, especially B vitamins, which helps to support the coloration of the hair, which is a certain melanin, essentially. That it's a cell. It's a type of color cell that will be there, it will be present or not. And if it's not, it's gray. And if it's there, then it's your color. And so some people can probably remanufacture it based on balancing their metabolites and hormones, probably gut as well, for assimilation and digestion of proper nutrients, healing the blood flow delivery of the nutrients to the end result, and you're going to get that change.
Okay.
Maybe I have to stand on my head more or something.
Are you
a way to grow your hair back?
Are you also like taking it through the nose? Are you like starting?
I've only done it when I need, like, I get these, No, I get
Oh,
weird sinus migraines from a dental injury. I mean, I've been
okay.
brutalized by dentists and doctors. So as a
Oh,
result, I have permanent injuries that will flare every now and again. So if I'm not very regimented with how I eat and all of
yeah.
these things,
Hmm.
it will flare.
Okay.
And it's in the sinus and temple and upper sinuses. And so I have done the snorting or a neti pot,
Yeah.
whatever,
Okay.
when I'm in pain,
Mm.
but I haven't done it on a regular basis,
Okay.
which, probably just because of time constraints and that sort of thing, but it's very valuable
Yeah.
to do it.
I've
Yeah.
had really
And the
good
mouth
success.
rinsing.
The gargling
Mhm.
or like oil pulling.
Mhm.
Yeah, who was it? Somebody was talking the other day about if you can do too much oil pulling, it's actually detrimental to your mouth. If you do more than like 20 minutes. Have you heard that?
I could see everything needs to have its moderation. And
Sure.
also, I feel like I'm going to throw up if
Yeah.
I go too long. I
Yeah.
mean, my body's saying you're
Done.
done.
Yeah.
And you want to listen to your
Yeah.
limits.
Right.
Somebody might like to oil pull for 20 minutes every single day or twice a day or whatever they do, and they're good with it. But I only like wheatgrass. I like to wheatgrass pulling.
Really? Oh, I've not heard of that. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
And it whitens the teeth. It affects
Hmm.
the gingiva, if there's any gingivitis, that sort of situation.
Okay.
And then the mouthwash with the urine is a really, really way to refresh the gums, and also will whiten the teeth, and
Mm-hmm.
this sort of thing. It'd be a really good mixture if you had strawberry juice, like you just took a fresh strawberry, blitzed it real quick, put the urine in it,
Yep.
and just brush the heck out of your teeth with it.
Oh my gosh.
That's some homemade toothpaste.
That sounds amazing. I actually use strawberry, like I don't know, like there's a lot of salt in this one. It's like sodium bicarbonate and coconut oil and strawberry flavored. And I don't know, it's kind of funny that I just happened to get strawberry flavored toothpaste this time, but I actually have been using urine to brush my teeth lately, in combination, not just completely, but I've noticed that I haven't had to do any other sorts of whitening protocols since then. And it's the ammonia, right? Like that's the thing that's working on the whitening and destaining.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And possibly just your pH is being corrected as well. So.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting. Okay. I'm just going to jump back over here quick. Amanda, give me just 1 second. Thaddeus is fielding a lot of these questions, but thank you for having Dr. Vollmer on. She's one of the most incredible truth teller there is right now. Whoa, that's pretty awesome. Okay. Boom. Did you know that?
No.
Oh my goodness. Temperature, aged in the fridge, recommended to, let's see. Okay. Oh, they're talking about enemas. And then that other question we didn't get answered with the 15 minutes. Like, what do you think about 15 minutes?
I mean, I sometimes I'll do my morning urine and I'll forget to drink it, and I'll drink it in the evening. Mm-hmm. It's been sitting out all day and I drink it. So I don't think now, maybe heat and light and other exposures can alter the structured part of your waters. That could happen. So maybe there's some logic there too, as to why you would drink it right away. Fresh. I mean, ultimately, if you were a purist, you would be micturating immediately in the glass, drinking it warm, and then your aged applications are specific for that, and you would be using it in pretty much every orifice.
Right.
And you probably wouldn't worry about the timing aspect, because you're trying to use it warm or use it as fresh as possible, just for convenience sake, because you don't have to remember to do it. You're right there.
Right.
My dad was here yesterday. Long story, but anyways, having a health concern. And I said, are you drinking your urine? Because you were before. And he's like, no, I haven't been doing it. I'm like, well, it's probably a good idea. And then in the morning, he says, oh, I have to go pee again. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, I drank 2 whole peas this morning. I just plugged my nose and down it went.
Oh my God. That's so amazing though, that he'd be open to that. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh, it's hilarious.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh my
just go. And he
goodness.
says, I feel kind of weird.
You mean
Well,
like euphoric?
I think he was, he hadn't done it in a while. And then
Okay.
he just
Oh,
did
sure.
2 full
Well,
bladders in a
that
row, right?
that's also like diuretic, and it'll probably give you a great big bowel movement, right? I mean, that's
Oh boy, that's fun.
yeah.
That's some exciting times, I tell you.
Right. Are you familiar with the book, the Oren Looping Doctor? It says Dr. Phillips on the front of it, and then it says Oren Looping.
Mhm.
Or okay.
Yeah, the looping all of the day's urine essentially as like a fast, as a specific cleanse.
I mean,
or
so
fast.
Well, his protocol is like he loops and he only eats 1 meal a day. And he has a 1 hour window. He eats 1 plate of food within 1 hour. He's really, really regimented. And he'll dry fast after his meal. And then he'll take all his water from the time his meal is ended, dry fasting. He'll save that until morning. He'll drink that. And then his morning urine. And then he has an internal enema.
Of the leftover urine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done that.
That's a cool protocol.
Yeah. It like, you don't have to do an enema then. Like it really just flushes everything out of you. It's pretty amazing. I did it in January, and yeah, it was pretty unbelievable how well it worked. So there's a lot of things like, I think, we can do, and it just seems unlimited at this point, right? Like, and like what you were saying before too, like you can go from one extreme to the other. You can be a purist or you can experiment. And it's like, I think people are looking really for some parameters and like, what's safe, right? Like, what's the doctor's opinion about the safety aspect of it? Cause like, that's where I was when I first started. I was like, I don't know, like I'm just going to dive in and read a shit ton of literature about it. But I also like hearing from somebody who's in the practice and doing it. So I think that's why people are really looking to, people like you, Brother Sage and Eric Casano, and all the, people that are outspoken about it to really lead this conversation and say, look, you have your intuition, right? And I hear, like, I feel like a few questions I've asked you, you're like, well, how's your body going to respond to it? Like, you have to figure that out, kind of. And I love that self-experimentation aspect of urine therapy as a biohacker. That's like what my husband and I do anyway. And this one seems like, I don't know, I titled this podcast like Your Own Natural Resource, and it truly is. It's like how Amanda was talking earlier. She doesn't waste a drop, right? Like it all goes to the aged. I don't like to say aged. I like to say evolved.
Fermented.
The fermented laboratory.
Yes.
But it's true. It's like once you start doing this, you're just like every golden drop is like going down the toilet into some other place. And it's like, wait, no, I want to keep that and use it somehow, because there's unlimited uses for it. And I just applaud you again, Amanda, for coming out in that early podcast and just, giving people, I don't know, just like that, a feeling of like, okay, like this is good. And this is the right action for where we're at right now. Right. So I would love for you to wrap up. We've gone a little bit over. I know I'm sorry to keep you, but I'm not sorry to keep you. This has been a great conversation. But would you just tell a little bit about like urine therapy? What is, like, we're on this new frontier of this ancient practice, which is such a fun, conundrum in itself. But the health freedom in general, and then a little bit of like maybe what you're talking about with the PMA situation earlier before we started recording, and then just kind of any final thoughts.
Well, one thing I was thinking is when I collect the urine, continually, you save it, and it's your own fertilizer as well for your garden. You just dilute it a little bit.
Okay.
And so, there's a fertilizer shortage. Well, not really, no, because you make your own fertilizer. So your urine can be used like that. And even as bug spray, like I was saying,
right.
Because if we want to get free, we have to be gardening. We have to be growing food. We have to understand our relationship with food needs to develop again. We need to remember the land and how it comes to us, and try to see where we fit in with what we can produce for ourselves. Right. And then there's a lot of different projects I've been working on, and I have quite a few goals. And one of them is about, because as I was mentioning to you, a lot of us have been shadow banned, erased, deleted, banned from all kinds of platforms, including payment processors. So PayPal, and I had Square, I had Stripe for a while. They both dumped me based on what I'm selling. They when I asked why, they said, well, our banking partners don't like that you sell colloidal silver, so we can't support your business anymore. And this is their excuse for not allowing me onto their platform to actually earn a living. And I started to see that obviously for a while. It has been going on for about 3 or 4 years ish.
Okay.
Even before, this whole thing started, the pandemic started and got worse. And so one of the things my business partner has been more so focusing on, but, we've had many conversations about how we're going to be sovereign, because we cannot contract with these corporations any longer, because they're really not countries anymore. They're run as businesses, corporations, and they are doing business with your corporation, with you. And you need to control the person. I've done a few videos talking about that, one particular with Dean Clifford about controlling the person and creating your fee schedule. And so if any corporation wants your attention, like a taxation place or anything that wants you to do something for them, you can conditionally accept, and you just give them your fee schedule and say, oh, I'd love to, fill out the taxes or whatever. I'd love to pay this illegal fine or whatever you're trying to give me. But first, here's my rate, my hourly rate. Here's how I conduct business under the corporate name, and which you're addressing me as, and that I don't do credit. So you'll have to pay up front for my time. And once I receive payment, we can go ahead, and I'll, and most of the time they don't, that's at the end of the discussion. Right. So that's just one aspect. Then, so what we've been doing is we're creating an alliance with a completely sovereign company that has its own bank. We become the bank. We're our own bank. So we can do peer-to-peer transactions. So if I wanted to send you money now, and I just take my phone out and pop it in, you would get it in a second. There's no fees. There's no bank fees, third party, nothing. It's peer-to-peer. And it's completely off any of their networks. It's Swift free. They can't touch it with the Swift key, which means it's not taxable. It's not collectible. It's none of their business. It's private. It's literally none of their business. They can't shut it down and they can't touch it. And we have our own currency to go with it. So sovereign currency and that whole shopping clubs structure. So say we get kicked off of PayPal, but we still want to run our business, right, through our website. Well, you get the wallet onto your website, and then you can have people pay through this method. And that's how you get paid. So that's launching soon. So I'll have I'll probably do, a video explaining it and how it all works, and how we're really trying to take our small businesses and our medium-sized businesses and stop the suppression of them in this way, by getting them into networking properly, aside from any bank, government, prying. You don't even have to have your own name on the account. You can have, as long as you have it connected to your phone number, that's connected to your information, that's That's it. You call yourself any name you want, and that's your name on the thing. And so it's very different than if you're trying to do other kinds of money exchanges or trading or whatever through a lot of these interchanges. They want passports and driver's license information, and they track everything, and everything's taxable, and they're getting to that point, right? So this is where we're headed, where we're going to have our own world. And we are not involved anymore in that, which, we have to at some point break away from it or be swept up into their digital currency. Not just digital currency, nothing wrong with digital currency. There's digital currency for this too. It's ours though. It's their currencies and their control and their taxation and their surveillance and their microchipping and this kind of crazy crap.
Yeah.
Not interested. We don't even really want your other dollars ultimately, right? Because the inflation is going to destroy it. We want stable currencies that aren't being traded on the market. So it's not like Bitcoin where it's all over the place. It's not traded. So it's stable. Okay. Stable coins, internal. And then you can buy things from, say, my store's on there. You can use your tokens that you've earned purchasing from other businesses to buy stuff, right? So we're going to have our own money and our own way of doing business with each other that can't be stopped. So, and it's Swiss backed, it's Swiss currency backed.
Wow. Okay. That is so fascinating. We were talking a little bit about that before the podcast was starting. And I was just like, oh my God, let's end with that. Cause Amanda, that's like a whole nother podcast. I would love to come back in, like maybe toward the end of the year, if that would be something you would entertain, and we could really dive into that and that be the focus of the podcast. Cause this is what I want. I want to talk about health freedom. I want to talk about all that sovereign, because you guys, like, this is what we have to do at this time. Like, we have to take all of those things back to ourselves. Like, this is our responsibility. And like, that's how I teach people about parenting. It's our responsibility. And there's so many facets of it, right? So like, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything else. And if you don't have your money, then, like, it all just kind of is a house of cards. But it's time that we start taking every single one of these things back. And I'm super passionate, Amanda, about the children aspect of it. So when I started listening to the Sovereign Collective podcast too, and I can't remember the woman's name because I listened to a few of the Sasha. Yeah. She had some other parenting advice and then some other homeschooling, and I unschool my children. And I believe you do too. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And it's really important to me that, parents need to really take that control back and take kids, I think, same with the institution, right? It's all it's all crumbling. And the more we can teach them, the more we can, we teach our kids how to forage. We teach our kids all these homestead things that we raise chickens, we chop wood, we do, that's all part of this whole, bigger picture of what we need to do personally, right? And then as a greater whole. And I just give you so many accolades, man. That is so cool what you're doing. I love that you have a PMA for your store. Let's tell people how to find you. And I also just want to give you a really quick plug, because this is, you guys, seriously, my favorite item. Can you see it? Is it blurry? It says DMSO facelift in a jar. And I remember, Amanda, the day that Thaddeus and I, because he likes to buy me like nice things. I have an amazing husband. And we opened the package together and we started reading the ingredients in this. And then the other one that was the dandelion lotion, the body lotion. And I read it and I was like, I've never seen anybody combine all these things in one jar or one, like body lotion ever before. And I was like, okay, this is some cool shit. So, I mean, it's been a long relationship with you, not ever meeting you until now, but it's just been incredible unfolding and seeing what you are doing with your company. So you can go onto Amanda's PMA, right? Like Yum Naturals, right? Is that?
Well, we separated DMSO items from
that's
Yum
right.
Naturals. So
Okay.
yumnaturals.store has most of the materials.
Okay.
And products and things that I make, but the DMSO.store, that now has, we had to move it because Health Canada, I mean, Canada's really terrible. They're just so corrupt, and they just want it all stopped. And it's really just, it's very disturbing actually, because we have our options here in Canada been drying up for things, just for options of products and getting stuff. It's palpable. We just were able to get some DMSO with this huge worldwide DMSO shortage. So we're happy that we've got something to work with here.
Okay.
But Health Canada just couldn't. Anyway, so we've done this. It is still private. DMSO.store, you have to register to purchase.
Okay.
And that's all so facelift is there and all that stuff.
Okay. Okay.
As well. And then I have yummy.doctor. The yummy.doctor is the videos. This one will be there, for example.
Okay.
Blog. And then all my courses and classes that I'm working on, that I'm making certification courses. So you could take a certification course on Shivambu.
Really?
And get a certificate after, and then you know your stuff and you feel confident. Yeah.
My husband is listening. Thaddeus, did you hear that?
Well, we're going to be our own doctors. Yeah. That's what I want. Yeah. That's how I vision this world, is we lift each other up, and we have to smack each other around a little bit because nobody's listening. So sometimes it can get a little bit punchy, but the point is, once the people are coming into their awakening, then we can have the real conversations, and we can they can realize that it's their responsibility, their health, and become their own doctors and have this new skill set. Like right now I'm working on a first aid course, just on emergencies, kind of. Okay. What are the things that you should orient yourself to be aware of an emergency, how you handle a broken bone, bleeding, loss of breathing, these sorts of basics, and then how you fit DMSO into that picture.
Oh, that's so amazing. Well, this is sitting on my desk, and it's the manual, Brother Sage's manual. I have that right on the. Do you? Right over there. Nice. I know, and we have your. Sage, we have your DMSO book. I think we loaned it out to a friend, but as I was running around tonight, I was like, Thaddeus, where's our book? And he was like, oh no, we let so-and-so borrow it. And I was like, shoot. I haven't read it yet, but he has. So I'm definitely interested in that course, because I'm all in. And I mean, I don't know. I actually put like goggles on and and do a lot of eye therapy. And I did have some yellowing in my eye, and it's almost gone. Like, it's almost all gone. And I've been doing it once a week. I do 5 to 10 minutes, putting goggles on, put a great podcast on in the bathtub, and I just sit there and I do eye exercises with it. So like we said, like,
that's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, there's so many things you can do. And so I learned that in the OMAD Oren looping book. That's nice. Yeah, that he has a lot of, and he talks a ton about colloidal silver. And what was the other thing he talks about? And what I don't think it was DMSO, but MSM? Well, maybe it was MSM. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Oh my gosh. Okay, we could sit and just talk for hours, Amanda, but I know I want to be sensitive to time, and we're already almost at 2 hours. So I am going to tell you thank you again, like from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of everyone's heart. You are such a wealth of information, and thank you so much for having the courage to show up and talk truth and share your gifts. It is truly a blessing to the world, what you're doing, and like, rock on. We're here to support you. So however we can support you. I know when Thaddeus first bought me this facelift in a jar, I was like, I want to be her mixer in the States. I'm like, she's stuck in Canada. No, we got to get her down here. We got to meet her. But we are huge fans, and we love to promote your products. So whatever we can do to help you out, like, we're here. And please consider Primal Hacker, Thaddeus and Tomorrow, your friends. And so any final comments?
Well, thank you for this this great chat, and I think we covered a lot of more even newer aspects, and because there's so much to explore with this healing art, and it's new, it's old and it's new again to us, and in the modern age, and how are we applying it in these sorts of things, and so it's very healthy and excellent to have these types of conversations and get some feedback from the audience. So I appreciate you doing it, and as well to Thaddeus, and thanks so much.
All right, you guys, we're signing off. Say goodbye to Amanda. Thanks, Amanda.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
All right, so let me see. I might need my husband's assistance to stop recording. Okay.